The process of sampling records has been the backbone of hip-hop since its inception over 50 years ago back in the 1970s. From the early days of looping drum breaks, to the golden era of flipping multiple samples like a musical collage, to today where AI gives us the ability to break down classic records into their individual parts. Without sampling, hip-hop as we know it wouldn't even exist. And in this video, I want to walk you through the different eras of hip-hop sampling, breaking down the techniques that revolutionized beat making. And now with the help of AI stem separation, producers have more control than ever before. And this video is actually sponsored by LALAL.AI and the incredible stem separation tool. So I'll not only show you how I use it in my workflow, but I'll also show you how producers like Rodney Darkchild Jerkins and Todd Edwards use it in their own music. So in the early days of hip-hop, before samplers even existed, looping breakbeats on turntables was the only way to go. DJs would dig through funk and soul records, looking for that perfect clean drum break, which they could loop back to back on two turntables.
Back to myself, I said, if they're waiting for this particular break and I have a couple more records that's got the same breakup in it, I wonder how would it be if I put them all together.
The instrumental breaks on the records became known as the break beats, and Hertz's merry-go-round formula of mixing between them provided the blueprint for a new music.
Then in the late 70s and early 80s, producers started taking these breakbeats that DJs were using at the parties, chopping them up and then building beats around them. And new technology like the EMU SP1200 made this so much easier for them. Producers like the legendary Marley Marl could now take these drum breaks, slice them into individual hits, and then reprogram them into completely new rhythms. Let's take MC Shan's The Bridge, for example.
They used to do it out in the park. Every place that said his name, it rang an alarm.
And that track samples the Honey Drippers' Impeach the President. A track that's actually been sampled over 800 times. Why? Because of the clean, open drum break at the beginning of the track. Perfect for looping and flipping into a new beat. However, today we don't need to find those clean breaks. We can take any song with drums that we like the sound of and just extract the drum stem. So using LALAL.AI's website, I'm going to select drums, and I want the drums from the Meters Sissy Strut. So I'm going to drag that straight in. And in just seconds, that's going to separate the track into two stems for me. One with just the drums that I wanted, and one with everything else.
Yeah.
And now if I take that drum stem, drop it into Logic, and layer that with the acapella, it locks in perfectly.
Hip-hop was set out in the dark. They used to do it out in the park. Every place that said his name, it rang an alarm. Otherwise known as BT Tom.
And just like that, AI has unlocked the possibility to just take any drum stem from any track and put that into your productions. So moving a little further into hip-hop's history, producers had already been layering samples in the 80s, but in the 90s they took it to a whole new level, blending multiple records together in much more complex ways. And new samples like the Akai MPC 60, the MPC 3000, and the Ensoniq ASR 10 were making this possible. These samplers gave producers more sample time, better pitch control, and the ability to assign chops onto different pads, allowing them to completely rearrange a sample instead of just looping it. And a great example of this technique is De La Soul's 1993 track, Break of Dawn. Producer Prince Paul combined 7 songs for this track, but I'm going to show you the 4 that make up the main bulk of the beat. First up, we've got Michael Jackson's I Can't Help It, and that's split and being EQ'd so that the bass is boosted, but the Rhodes is left untouched. Then we've got the Pointer Sisters' Yes We Can for the drums, and I've boosted those with the knock to give them that punch. Next we've got Smokey Robinson's A Quiet Storm, and that's being high pass just to keep those vocal textures. And then finally we've got Blue Mitchell's Daydream for a nice Rhodes texture. And then when we put all of that together, we get De La Soul's Break of Dawn. And And Principal was able to layer and EQ the samples to make them fit together perfectly, which was becoming a much more common technique as producers were moving past just simple loops. Now obviously all of this new technology gave them much more control than back in the 80s, but imagine what they could have been creating if they had full control over the samples. Let's say they wanted to take the horns from one track, the bass from another, and the drums from another one. At the time they didn't have the technology to be able to do that unless they used clever EQ or panning tricks. Now with LALAL.AI's stem separation, we're able to do just that. So I can grab this Michael Jackson sample and isolate any element that I want. So if we look to the left, you can see all the different elements you can isolate. First of all, we can get the a cappella or the instrumental. Then we can get the drums, the bass, either electric or acoustic guitar, piano, synth, strings, and wind instruments. So pretty much anything. So first of all, I'll split the vocal and the instrumental, so let's listen to that.
Looking in my mirror.
Then we've got the drums. Following that, the bass. And then the synth. And there's so many creative ways we can use this to create beats now. So for decades, producers had to work around these limitations. If a sample had vocals over it, you had to try and filter them out. If the drums were too buried in the mix, you had to find different drums. If you couldn't find an instrumental version of a track, you were completely out of luck. Now with AI stem separation, the game has been completely changed. And there's countless examples of producers using this technology in recent times. Let's take the legendary producer Todd Edwards, for example, known for his crazy micro-chopping techniques. He's talked about his excitement using the technology and how it's been able to open a whole new world of opportunities for him, giving him even more control into the elements he wants to chop into his trademark micro-chopping technique. Then we've got producer Rodney Darkchild Jerkins, and he used the technique on SZA's track Forgiveless, and it features an unreleased freestyle from the Wu-Tang's ODB.
I'm the original G.O.D. making young ladies scream is my specialty.
And that was recorded years ago on VHS when Darkchild and ODB were in the studio. However, the freestyle features music, and he needed to use stem separation to separate the music from the vocals. Then we've got the story of the Beatles' latest posthumous single, Now and Then. And stem separation was used on an old John Lennon demo to separate his vocals from a piano part.
When Paul decided to work again with John on his beautiful demo Now and Then, the same techniques were applied. Sean had a cassette recording of John playing the piano at the Dakota Building and singing the song.
I know it's true.
To work on the song, the voice had to be separated, and that's what this technology did.
And if I make it through.
And these are just a few examples of how the technology is being used today. Right, for the final part of this video, I really wanted to put LALAL.AI to the test, using it to take classic hip-hop samples and taking different stems from them to create a new beat. So the first track that I grabbed was Isaac Hayes' Hung Up on My Baby. And I really like the percussion in this track, so I used LALAL.AI's drum separator to just isolate the percussive elements. And that's pretty simple, just a straight loop with a high pass filter just to keep it light. And then later on this track, I heard some really nice horns. But obviously there was a lot of instrumentation around them, so I used the stem separator to just isolate those. And I chopped them up, pitched them slightly, then added a little bit of reverb to make them sit a little bit better in the mix. Next up, I actually love the drums from that De La Soul Break of Dawn track. So I actually just used a stem separator to take those out and use those as the main drums in the track. And those sounded really nice layered with the percussion. After that, I found an amazing sample from Ralphie Pagan's I Could Never Hurt You Girl. And from that one, I just wanted the vocals and the melody, so I used the stem separator to remove the bass and the drums. I then added RC20 to give it a bit of wobble and reverb to give it that vintage feel. And then finally, I grabbed my bass and recorded a live bass line just to glue everything together. And to finish it all off, I put the a cappella from De La Soul's Break of Dawn over the top, and this is what that sounded like.
The mayor has it on the sayer, wave the 18 mil, even still, sack a bag of troubles, make a single double, loop the coin and join the minimum wage. I had a
One final thing that I actually haven't mentioned yet is the new echo and reverb remover, and I've been testing it out on a few a cappellas I have. I honestly can't believe how well it works. Here's an a cappella with the reverb before you put it through.
I still remember your name, rolls off my tongue so easily.
And here's what it sounds like when you use this echo and reverb remover.
I still remember your name, rolls off my tongue so easily.
And obviously that's super useful if you're using a cappellas and you're remixing songs. Reverb is very specific to the song that it was in, and it might not work with what you're creating. So yeah, it's a really useful tool. So hopefully that was an insightful look into the evolution of sampling and what we can do with stem separation. And I personally love using this technology to grab a cappellas for edits, to extract drums from tracks for chopping, and also to isolate different melodies for sampling. But there are so many ways that it can spark new ideas. And you can check out LALAL.AI using the link in the description. And when you sign up, you get 10 minutes of free conversions to try out, so you've got nothing to lose. And also, if you're looking for some fresh samples to inspire your beat making, you can check out my packs Soul Food and Secret Sauce, full of song starters to inspire your next beat. And you can grab those with 50% off throughout March using the code OHIMARCH. And finally, producers, I've just launched my Discord community, and it's a great space for beat makers and producers to come and share your music, collaborate, chat, and so much more. And I'd love to see some of you there. You can find the link for all of those in the description.